This episode is brought to you by Anytime Fitness. We may talk a whole lot about sports, but when it comes to keeping fit ourselves, there's definitely room for improvement. I hit this point early July. I was just like, I am not in good enough shape. I started trying to walk at least 15,000 steps a day or hiking or just anything to keep my legs moving. Now it's the end of 2023. I feel great. I had a physical 3 weeks ago, and the guy was like, "You're doing great. You're doing better than you were 3 years ago." I felt great. Whatever your goals are, progress is possible thanks to Anytime Fitness. Get a personalized plan and support from an expert coach anytime, anywhere. Visit anytimefitness.com to try Anytime Fitness for free. Start to train for your life. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. See website for details. This episode is brought to you by Read, Write, Own, Building the Next Era of the Internet, a new book from entrepreneur and startup investor Chris Dixon. If you're listening to this podcast, you know what it's like to be part of a community of fans. You value the people who play, perform, and create for everyone. Well, what if there are more ways to support them, more ways to be a fan? And what if you had even more ways to connect with the teams, artists, and other creators that you love? Even though creators make the internet valuable, how much value do they get for their work? Well, that's mostly up to a few big tech companies. Shouldn't creators get more from the platforms they make successful? More value, but also more say, more control, more ownership? Read, Write, Own explores an alternative future for the internet, one that reclaims control for creators, fans, listeners, and gamers, the people who not only use the internet, but make it useful. Read, Write, Own imagines an internet built by us for us. So order your copy of the book today or learn more at readwriteown.com.
Yeah, get up, get up. Welcome to Cousin Sal's winning weekend. I'm Cousin Sal. And if you heed my advice, you're about to have a winning weekend. You see how it works? We have a great show for you, or maybe not. You know what? We'll let the ratings decide. We're going to recap that Thursday night game, a brand new segment that's sweeping the nation called Wager Rager. My old pal Harry will be joining us, and my new pal, the great Billy Walters, is going to be chatting with me. Let's kick things off with the NFL's kickoff game. It started with a bang. Thursday night, the world champion Chiefs lost to the Lions 21-20. And I'm going to recap this in a weird way, as only I can do, in a segment we're calling Cover 4 with Cousin Sal. That's such a clever title. It really is. All right, Cover 4. I have exactly 4 takeaways from this game. I can't have more. I can't have fewer. Here we go. Number 1, Dan Campbell is a legitimate crazy person. Now, I don't want to get graphic, but parts of Dan Campbell's anatomy are gigantic. And let's just say he's ballsier than the pit at Chuck E. Cheese. You get it? In case you missed it, the Lions have it 4th and 3, first quarter, inside his own 20. And Campbell calls for a fake punt, and it worked. The Chiefs' defense was demoralized, and they scored on that drive. If that play gets blown up, Dan Campbell is kicked out of Detroit forever. He's at least banned from eating Coney dogs for a year. I'll tell you right now, if they make a run at the NFC North title, Dan Campbell, Coach of the Year, already down to plus 750, that may be the ticket. Number 2, if you're on defense and Patrick Mahomes has the ball on your 2 or 3 yard line, just go ahead and get off the field. Grab some Pirates booty, check your Instagram. You're not going to want to see what Mahomes has in store for you. Really, the guy has you dead to rights. There's no point in watching him run around for a half hour and finally toss a ball through his legs to some rookie, somehow got open in the third of the end zone and has it all to himself. I see you, Rashid Rice. Yes, that's number 2. Number 3, the drops. Somehow every receiver forgot how to catch a pass during the offseason. That Thursday night game had more drops than it did insurance commercials. What happened? Did Johnny Knoxville replace Stickum gloves with silly string? Kadarius Toney looked like a 5-year-old trying to catch a water balloon. Hey, receivers, it's a long year. Please figure it out. Use your hands and use them right, or go play footy with Messi. Number 4, Chris Collinsworth is back in the broadcast booth and giddier than ever. Oh, Mike, did you see Jared Goff? He's just having so much fun out there. What about this Sky Moore? Can you believe the athleticism? Jahmyr Gibbs, you see how he picked up the pass rush? I want to have that guy's baby. Chris is in love with every player who's ever been fitted for a mouthpiece, and people are going to trash him for it. But you know what? I'm not one of those people. You know why? Because I'm giddy too. These guys are having fun. They are making it look easy. And you know what? I'd have a baby with every single one of them too. Thank you, Chris, for pointing out what everyone needs to appreciate. Football is beautiful, and we're back, baby. And that does it for cover 4. I think I could have nailed it in 3, to be honest. May need a new title. Some bets you spend hours crunching the numbers and analyzing data, looking for an edge. This is not that. I'm way too unsophisticated for that. So it's time for me to offer an attempt at a mostly comedic and oftentimes angry look at a bet that I'm backing. We're calling this Wager Rager. Thank you. It only took a half dozen interns 11 weeks to come up with a title for this segment. Speaking of titles and names that make little to no sense, you probably heard that the Washington Commanders were recently sold by embattled owner Daniel Snyder. Snyder, who had more charges against him than Nick Cannon's American Express card on Mother's Day, finally caved and sold the team to investor/philanthropist/handshake ninja Josh Harris. And it's good that he's gone. People were sick and tired of dealing with the sewage in the stadium as well as the steaming stench coming from the front office. But Snyder's dastardly departure does leave a void in the NFL. Yes, the question now becomes, who does Daniel Snyder pass the crazy villainous owner baton to? Well, the blue smoke is bellowed from the flyover states, and it's settled in the form of Indianapolis Colts chairman Jim Irsay. And he comes with quite a resume. Irsay himself has had his brushes with the law as well as his brushes with stupidity.
I don't know how to make sausage. I don't know what goes into sausage.
You probably remember last year when Irsay pulled a fast one by hiring someone from television to coach his football team. Unfortunately, none of the Real Housewives of Dubai were available. So what did he do? He ended up with his old pal, Jeff Saturday.
You want to bet against this guy? Put your money down, people. Love to see it.
And yes, we all should have listened. Saturday, a guy with no coaching experience, proceeded to go 1-7. And one of those losses involved the biggest blown lead in NFL history. And it's not just the coaches. In the past 3 years, Irsay has overseen a quarterback situation like a cucumber farmer in Uzbekistan who was forced to join your fantasy league as a last-minute replacement. But this year, he topped all those things by upsetting his franchise running back / best player, Jonathan Taylor, inspiring the biggest online feud since Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk fake threatened to throw hands. It started with Jonathan Taylor wanting more money. Irsay denied him a raise, which led to JT requesting to be traded. Jim Irsay wanted none of that. A month later, he wanted all of that when he gave Taylor permission to seek a trade. And then, somewhere in there, Dr. Demented diagnosed Jonathan Taylor with an injury Taylor didn't even know he had. It started a big mess. Jonathan Taylor never got traded, and whether he's injured or not, he ended on the dreaded PUP list. So now the Colts are without their best player, maybe forever, and with nothing but confusion to show for it. We know how you feel, Blue. At this point, it's really hard to tell if old Jimbo wants to be the owner of a multi-billion-dollar NFL franchise or the host of his own Comedy Central series, Irsay the Darndest Things.
We don't build rockets to go to Mars. We're not nuclear scientists.
I really don't know what his goal is. My goal, I'm pretty certain, is to make money. And that's exactly what I'm going to do by heading over to the FanDuel app right now and betting the dysfunctional Colts adjusted win total under 4.5 at almost 3-1 odds.
These things don't always work out in our favor.
See? Even Jim approves. Hey, after this break, we're going to go over all the Week 1 important games on the NFL slate, plus some college stuff. When you return, Harry is going to be in the handicapper hot seat. Don't go anywhere. I still can't believe how cool that looks. Welcome back to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. It's time to tackle the games we've been waiting for since that horrible, horrible day in February when football ceased to exist. Yes, the Week 1 Sunday slate is here, and here to help me tackle it is my longtime friend from college. I know it's hard to believe I went to college. I met him over 3 decades ago, and we've been fading each other ever since. Please give a big duh and a big hug to Harry Gagnon. Harry, what's happening?
Sal, what's going on? This is fantastic. From college to this is amazing, right? I'm so pumped. I'm excited. It's going to be great.
It is it might not be great. Who knows? This could be the last week. You never know, but I appreciate your enthusiasm. I have so many stories I want to tell about us and together and how we came up and how we gambled, but a lot of them aren't suitable for FanDuel or TV or FanDuel TV. But let's talk about the one when we were in college. I wrote about this in my book, and we had to take on an odd job because of our gambling, basically our very bad gambling.
Very bad, and thank God, happens to be our bookie in town ran like the recreation department in town with this other bookie, and they put us to work. They put us to work refereeing City League basketball like on Tuesdays and Thursday nights.
We were making $6 a game to pay off a debt, and I think we would have had to have reffed like 300 or 350 guys. We would still be reffing 35 years later. But as it turned out, we couldn't stop and just ref basketball games. We had to bet on the games ourselves, and we're betting against each other. And so that led to some really ridiculous calls on the floor, right?
Oh, of course, and even like the janitors, we had the 2 janitors. You made nicknames. I can't remember the nickname you made up for those guys. They were betting on the side. I think they had more $1 bills in their pocket than they had teeth. But regardless of that, it was fantastic stuff, and they loved betting on it.
And one of the janitors was Bill Simmons, the other Pat McAfee. It's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable success story. All right, listen, we're going to go over these games. We have a lot to go through here, Harry. So let's start. San Francisco at Pittsburgh. The 49ers are a 2.5-point favorite. 41.5 is the over-under. I'm taking the 49ers here. I love this team. I've never loved the team with the very last pick in the draft carrying a UCL injury, playing quarterback as much as I love the 49ers. I have them winning 13 games. I can't get there with the Steelers. I'm not as high on Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett. He's the kind of quarterback I feel like the 49ers can hold in check. Their defense actually may have gotten better, the 49ers, with Hargrave addition. He makes plays with his legs, Pickett, but he's not a downfield thrower. So I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I know you have the over, but I'm going 49ers to take care of business and win 1 of 13 games this year in Pittsburgh.
Wow. Oh, yeah, Sal, I'm going to take the over here. It opened 40.5, now 41.5. Jimmy G is in Las Vegas. Trey Lance was the starter week 1 last year for San Francisco. And now when Brock Purdy gets the nod in week 1, I think he is similar in the way he manages games like Jimmy G was. Very similar numbers last year, 68% each completion percentage, 8 yards per completion. And it's easy to get this team downfield when you have somebody like McCaffrey, where he had 10 touchdowns last year in 11 games for the Niners since coming over from Carolina. Brandon Ayuk's getting better and better, over 1,000 yards last year, 8 touchdowns. And I think a lot of people are excited about the Pittsburgh passing game with Kenny Pickett. He played much better in the second half last season. Very little turnovers. Offense looked great in the preseason here, and really like the Pickett to Pickens combo. Purdy, Pickett, both will be clicking, I think, Sal. I think this lands 47. I'm going over 41.5.
All right. Yeah. McCaffrey, I think they were 10-3 against the spread with McCaffrey, 12-1 straight up. So he is the difference. I'm rooting for you, but 49ers held 5 opponents to 10 or fewer. So we don't know what to expect with this, but this will destroy me, this pick, because I'm so high on the 49ers. And when they're losing 21-3 at, 2:30 Eastern, everyone's gonna be like, oh, what happened? What'd you say, Sal? So that could be my first loss. Let's go props here. Deebo Samuel under 52.5 yards receiving. Fantasy wise, I passed on Deebo in all 72 of my fantasy leagues. He's failed to exceed 50 in 3 of his last 4 games where his team is favored. 7 out of the last 12 that he played went under. Purdy likes to spread it around, as you said. Harry, Ayuk, and the guys, those of ilk, seem to be getting the ball more. Samuel went from 77 receptions to 56. So I'm going to go under for Deebo in receiving yards.
I'm going to take Najee Harris, Sal, at anytime touchdown, plus 110, 10 total touchdowns in each of his first 2 seasons. Kenny Pickett, like I said, I think he can move the team down the field efficiently. when they get inside the 5, you got to pound it once or twice with Harris here. Happened to score on a reception. A reception in his opening game last year. He had 3 receiving touchdowns last year, 3 in his first season. Give me Najee Harris to the Steelers anytime touchdown at plus 110. Sal.
All right, let's move on. Also in the Steelers division, Cincinnati at Cleveland. I'm going Browns plus 2.5. This is my big swing pick. I think these two teams play again in week 18, pretty sure. Surprisingly, Burrow only 8-8 versus the AFC North in his career, but I picked the Browns to win the division. They don't have to do that this Sunday. They just have to win for me to, or lose by 2 or fewer. Can you see it though? Since he got off to a slow start last year, they lost their first 2 and still made it far. Everybody thought they were going to the Super Bowl. Maybe they pick it back up, but I think they dropped this first game. Can't you just see Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett lighting up Joe Burrow and everyone being like, wow, what happened to that offensive line? It's the same as it always was. So I think Cleveland steals one here, a slight underdog at home. And I'm taking that as the upset. Where are you going?
I'm with you, Sal. I know you're all over the Browns this year. I'm going to jump on with you here in week 1. You mentioned since he did lose their first 2 games throughout the season last year, they're just 1-2 straight up their last 3 openers. Plus the Browns in Cleveland gave Cincinnati their worst loss of the season last year, beating them by 19 points. The Bengals have not actually gone into the dog pound and pulled out a win since 2017, believe it or not. So getting points here is tough to pass up. You're all over Deshaun Watson this year. Let's see if your guy can come through, Sal. I'm with you here. I like the points, but I even think Cleveland can pull the upset. I got him 27-24.
All right. Now, our ringer cohort, Raheem Palmer, points out that week 1, division underdogs 25-13 against the spread the past 20 years, 7-0 against the spread since 2018. Wow. As far as a prop goes, Deshaun Watson, 2 or more touchdown passes, you're getting plus 108. No one's going to praise me for picking Deshaun Watson, anything positive, I'm sure. But I have a good feeling about him. I have a good feeling about him this game. Last couple games last year, he threw for multiple touchdowns, 3 and 2. This is purely on gut feeling. Jesse Bates, Von Bell, no longer in that secondary for Cincinnati. You're going to have a tough time adjusting, at least early on. Give me 2 or more for Watson at plus 108. What do you got?
Yeah, I really love this one, Sal. Your ex-Cowboy, Amari Cooper, over 58.5 receiving yards at minus 114. Sal. Cooper led Cleveland in almost every receiving category last year, 132 targets, averaged 15 yards per reception, had over 1,100 yards, averaged 68 a game. And in this matchup versus Cincinnati in the dog pound last season, Cooper had 131 yards in that game. And plus, how he stole my thunder a little bit there with Cincinnati losing safeties Von Bell and Jesse Bates in free agency. Big game for Cooper versus their in-state rival. He goes well over 58.5. This is something where he might be able to get this by halftime.
All right, Tennessee travels to New Orleans. That line is 3. I'm going to buy it down to 2.5 and take the favorite New Orleans Saints. I could buy it. That's what I could do. I could buy points. My Aunt Chippy sends me a birthday card with $50 in it. I'm going to use it to buy this half a port. I like Derek Carr. I like what he brings to this team. You could bet on FanDuel that he will lead the NFC South in passing yards. I think you pay a little vig on it, but I think it's worth it. He's far and away the best and most established quarterback in the NFC South. They're going to make New Orleans excited about winning, at least early on. Like I said, I like both of these teams. I actually picked both of them to win the division. But with Carr, he'll be able to throw it around the field. Take him. And remember, Tannehill 0-3 against the spread as an opening day starter for the Titans. Titans definitely win the coaching matchup, but not the game on Sunday. Who are you going with?
Well, maybe I should change my pick here after that Tannehill stat, Sal. But I am going to take Tennessee plus the 3. A very tough game here to figure out. I don't love Tannehill, and I don't love Carr, but I do love Derrick Henry to dominate against the Saints defensive line. Henry over 1,500 yards. I feel he'll be the difference. I can see this game being tight in Derek Carr's Saints debut. It's going to take a little time for him to mesh with his wide receivers, I think. The Titans take it again, thanks to the best player on the field in Derrick Henry. 21-20 Titans.
Whoa, you mean I don't even have the best Derrick on the field? All right, I'm leaning on Carr again. Over 1.5 touchdown passes, minus 106. He's exceeded 1.5 touchdown passes in 6 of his last 8. Olave had a dynamite rookie season. Juwan Johnson, capable tight end. You have Michael Thomas as a 3rd or 4th option. I think it's nice. Derek Carr's going to lose some dumb games for them down the stretch, but I like him over 1.5 touchdown passes, minus 106. You're going against the other quarterback. You're going Tannehill.
Yeah, even though I'm taking the Titans with the points here, I'm going to take Tannehill under 220 passing yards at minus 114. He enters his 11th season with the Titans. And look, I think overall the New Orleans secondary can be very tough with Matthew and Marshawn Lattimore, who was back. Tennessee relies more on their running game, like I said, with Derrick Henry to keep drives alive. I'm going to go under 220.5, Sal.
All right, Jacksonville and Indianapolis. The Jags are a 4.5-point favorite at Indy. 45.5 is the over-under. Colts 5-13-2 against the spread in their last, 20 season openers. They're the least profitable team over the last 2 decades in season openers. You heard my thoughts on the Colts earlier. 7th different Colts starter in as many years, calling the signals back there. This is less of a bet on the Jaguars, who I don't love, and more against the rookie quarterback against the serviceable defense. I don't mean to pick on AR, but he has the lowest completion rate, 54.7% by a first-round quarterback in 12 years. Give me the Jaguars to win by at least a touchdown. I'm only laying 4.5 here. You're going under.
Yeah, I do like your play, Sal, but I'm going to lean towards the under of 45.5 here too. 3 of the last 4 games between these AFC rivals has landed under 45.5. It seems with rookie quarterback, you mentioned Anthony Richardson getting the call. Their offense probably sputter a bit, and of course, no Jonathan Taylor in the backfield for Indianapolis. Jacksonville, I can see getting off to an early lead. Trevor Lawrence extending the lead during the game, but doesn't show too much in this game. Probably won't have to in the second half. Rely on their secondary and their defense. I love safeties, Andre Sisco and Rashawn Jenkins. Both guys combined for over 200 tackles last year. I think Jacksonville in a game, I'll give Indy 16, Jacksonville 24. They cover the spread, and the game still goes under.
All right. Real quick props. Lawrence, anytime touchdown, plus 280. 2 rushing touchdowns 2 years ago, then 5 last year. I think he can go have closer to 10 this year. That would be better than every other game. And so the plus 280 stands out, at least in my mind. He had a game with 2 rushing touchdowns versus the Colts last year. A little fluky to bet on a quarterback to run it in, but I like that number. Harry, quickly, what's your prop on this game?
Yeah, I got Travis Etienne, Sal, over 75.5 rushing and receiving yards combined at minus 117. Had 1,400 yards combined last year, over 250 total touches. Had over 100 yards in his last game played against Indy. So give me over 75.5 yards for Travis Etienne, who could bust one at any time.
All right, let's hit this game real quick. Philly minus 4 and 45 at New England. I'm going to go under. I can't bet Philly, but I kind of like what they look like here. They didn't lose a ton defensively. I wish they would have lost more as a Cowboys fan. CJ Gardner-Johnson's gone, but they lost Hargrave, as I mentioned, but then they just loaded up on Georgia Bulldog studs and they held them hostage. So they'll be okay. Tom Brady ceremony night in Foxborough. Belichick and his girlfriend broke up. Tom is signal. First time neither is tied down. Maybe sparks fly during the ceremony. I'm not going to get into that. But back to the game. Mac Jones, uninspiring either way. I think it's 17-14 late in the 4th. And I don't know. I don't care who wins, but under 45 seems like a lot enough. Harry, you're going Philadelphia.
I'm going to lay the points with Philly, Sal. Nick Sirianni's team lost just 1 road game last year, and they're 9-1 straight up. In their last 10 road games. Philly was 5-0 versus the AFC last year and won by an average of 13 points. And they've won 7 in a row over the AFC overall. New England the other day picked up Jalen Reagor. Sal, you know how much I can't stand that guy. Yeah. What a terrible pick that was in the draft. They picked him up last week. Any team that needs him is hurting. Speaking of hurting, how about Hurts outshines Mac Jones here? I got Philly 31-23.
All right, real quick. Hurts, I'm going over 42.5 rushing yards for the last 6. He went 60 plus. He had a few big ones too, a 90-yard game, an 86-yard rushing game, 157-yard rushing game. This has potential to go way over. I don't know. You might want to check out some adjusted rushing yards for him. He gets shoved in the back by teammates 3 times. He can get to 20 yards. Give me the over. Harry Gainwell, anytime touchdown, plus 310.
I'll take a shot here, Sal. I know the Eagles went out and got DeAndre Swift from Detroit, and Jalen Hurts had 13 rushing touchdowns himself last year. But Gainwell still looks good and is reliable in the red zone, has 10 touchdowns in his 2 seasons coming out of Memphis. And he scored in Philly's opening game last year versus Detroit. So give me Gainwell at plus 310.
All right. Hey, listen, we went too long. We went way too long. That was really quick reading, though, Harry, at the end. Hey, we're not done, but it's time to take a break. You okay, Harry?
We'll I'm good, Sal. Let's do it.
All right, prime time, Coach Prime, Cowboys, Giants. We'll get to it all. Plus, are we buying Colorado to beat Nebraska? Next on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Stick around. All right. Welcome back to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. I'm Cousin Sal. That's Harry in the handicapper's hot seat. We've already lasted longer than Trey Lance did as the 49ers starter. We went through a bunch of games. We're going to hit a few more, Harry. You ready? You're up for it?
Let's roll, bud.
Harry's wearing a button-down shirt. I know it's very tight on top. You didn't even wear a button-down shirt for your wedding, right?
I was going to say, Sally, I got a nice collared shirt here for you, buttoned down. I look better than I did at my wedding a year ago.
You do. You're right.
That your middle son was my best man at.
I know.
Story.
I still don't understand it. All right, let's go over these games. These few remaining games here. Green Bay at Chicago. Chicago -1.5, and that's the way I'm going here. This is supposed to be the greatest, longest rivalry in professional football. I can't remember two good games in my lifetime that these two teams have played. There was one where the fan jumped out of the stands to catch a field goal on Monday Night Football or something, but that was cool, but it had nothing to do with the game. Anyway, this also has a great potential to be the biggest overreaction game of the week, regardless of the result. Jordan Love didn't lose a step. Oh, he was great. Unbelievable. The Packers are the same with him. Justin Fields looking like an MVP. I could see it all. It's a tough game to call because both teams are expected to win 7.5 games. If you go to FanDuel, you check it out. But Aaron Rodgers, Packers owned this team for a very long time and reminded them as much as he could. I just don't think the Bears want to give Jordan Love some momentum to put together a streak of his own. I think they're every bit as good as the Packers, and they're going to have the fans behind them. Going with the ever so slight road favorite Bears. How does it work, Harry? If you're a minus, you're a favorite, right?
That's
going with the favorite. Bears -1.5. You're going with them as well.
I'm with you, Sal. Like Chicago and Justin Fields stunned San Francisco at home in Soldier Field last year in their opener, and right now it's hard to have faith in Jordan Love. Now I heard today Dobbs and Watson questionable with injuries, so that's big not having them if that's the case. Chicago went out and got Bills linebacker Tremaine Edmonds to clog up the middle, and they also got linebacker T.J. Edwards from Philadelphia. He had 160 tackles last year. And in this rivalry, I think the difference is going to be Fields, but more for his legs than his arms. I think he's going to keep drives alive. Green Bay's going to be tired in the fourth quarter. They'll be sucking wind. I think they do enough here. I think the Bears do enough. Justin Fields does enough. Chicago 20, Green Bay 17.
Okay, good number. Keeping in the Fields theme here. Anytime touchdown +145. Same reasoning I had really with Trevor Lawrence. I don't see anyone stopping this guy down low. He had one stretch last year, Fields, where he had 6 games in a row with a rushing touchdown. You're not going to see that plus number in front of his rushing touchdowns for too many more weeks. So take it now, +145. What's your prop?
I got Aaron Jones under 55.5 rushing yards out at -113. 3 of his last 5 games against Chicago, he's gone under that number, under actually 42 yards in 3 of those 5. Now, look, Chicago's defense was atrocious after dealing away Roquan Smith to Baltimore. But like I just mentioned, they reloaded with Edmonds and Edwards. They combined for 260 tackles last year. They stopped Jones. Jones has a real tough game. Green Bay has a tough game. I'm going Jones under 55.5 rushing yards.
All right, let's do this. Sunday night, Dallas -3.5, 45.5 is the over-under at the New York Giants. You know, as a Cowboys fan, I'm nervous for not being nervous about this game. And I'm even nervous about that too. So, but back-to-back 12-win seasons. They own the Giants. They've won 11 out of the last 12, 16 out of the last 20 against the Giants. Once upon a time, Harry was a big Giants fan. I was a Cowboys fan. I remained with this team. Daboll's definitely better than Joe Judge was for this Giants, but even he is a curiosity. They were 1-4-1 in the division. Not good at all. Prescott 20-13-1 against the spread in primetime. Daniel Jones 0-4 straight up in primetime. I don't know, Harry, you're always talking about the big games under the lights, but Daniel Jones doesn't get it done. Why is this different? I'm taking the Cowboys.
Well, remember, speaking of memories, watching Chip and Chippy's watching that end of the season, regular season game against Dallas and the Giants back in the 90s. Great stuff, Sal.
Yeah, a lot of Chippy references. Yeah, good.
I had over 1.5, so I had to throw that in. I mentioned a few AAOs ago. New York is due to take down Dallas. They've lost 4 in a row to the boys overall, but both losses last season were 1-score games. It is time for Daniel Jones to step up. He got paid in the offseason. Let's go, primetime. Let's get it done, Daniel Jones. And on defense, by the way, I think Kevon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, all over Dak. Give me the Giants outright, 26-24. So how you like that?
Still not nervous.
Okay.
You know why? Because Barkley battled back, who kind of got paid, but not really. Taking him under 65.5 rushing yards. Went the last 7 games without a 100-yard game. He only went over 50 once in the last 5 games. Catches balls out of the backfield. That's great, and especially against the Cowboys last year. But against the stout Dallas D, it's going to be a long night, 65.5. Too high on the rushing end, Harry. Your boy Daniel Jones, you like him over passing yards.
Over 207.5, Sal at -114 in 6 career starts versus Dallas. Jones has eclipsed that number 4 times and got injured early in one of those games where he didn't hit the mark of 208. But Saquon is an excellent receiver out of the backfield. And Sal, your boys better look out for the rookie from Tennessee, Jalen Hyatt. He could be the deep that the Giants have needed for quite some time. He looked great in preseason, averaged 19 yards per catch at Tennessee as a vol last year, over 207.5. Daniel Jones, let's go.
All right. Still not worried. Buffalo at the Jets Monday night, -2.5, 46.5. I'll keep this brief. I mean, I know this is one of the home teams in division. You should be able to take it. Like I picked with the Browns. Well, it doesn't go along with my narrative. So I'm ditching that stat. See how easily I could do that? I could take a trend and
Very
just
nice.
ignore it. I'm going with Buffalo here. They're the better team. They're expected to win more games. I'm laying 2.5. This is a weird game because the Jets, to say all the value is sucked out of all the Jets bets is just the understatement of the year. This was like an even line up until 2 weeks ago before everyone came to their senses. The Bills are the better team. Rodgers is not yet established as the quarterback he was 2 years ago. Maybe he catches back up. This first half of the schedule was brutal for the Jets, and I just think there's too much emotion, too much going on. Josh Allen on the road wins this one 28-22. Give me Buffalo minus the points.
I like that with you, Sal, too. And look, on Against All Odds, I think I'm like 3-0 in spite bets. And this is a spite bet for me.
Oh.
I just want Aaron Rodgers to stink. That's all. I just do. And I think he really can here. I can see Rodgers having many issues against a very solid Buffalo secondary. Tre'Davious White played in just 6 games last season, but he's healthy, ready to go. Love Jordan Poyer in the backfield in the secondary too. Micah Hyde. Josh Allen, like you mentioned, his offense do enough here, Sal. And Buffalo, by the way, 4-0 straight up in their last 4 road openers. Give me 23-16, Buffalo.
All right, way under. All right, so we both have Gabriel Davis props here. Second option for the Bills, Stephon Diggs. A lot of noise about how he and Josh Allen aren't getting along. Maybe it's Gabriel Davis's year. It is a contract year for him, and I do like him to score a touchdown at plus 195. Wasn't like 2 years ago, kind of when it was bunched up. He'd have 3 here, 2 here, all over the place. It was kind of a little more consistent. And I think at almost 2-1 odds, it's worth it to bet him to score a touchdown against this Jets defense. You like him over receiving yards?
Yeah, I like him over 46.5 receiving yards, Sal, minus 114. You mentioned contract year 2, time for Davis to really step it up. Sauce Gardner will be all over Stephon Diggs. So Josh Allen should be looking Davis's way a lot on Monday night. In 2022, Davis had a career high in receptions, targets, and yards. He's entered his 4th season, and I expected big things for him this year. And I think he can do that on the other side of the field against not going up against Gardner. I think he'll be able to get open, and I think over 46.5 is doable for Gabriel Davis.
All right, listen, that's Sunday and that's Monday, but let's go back to Saturday. Nebraska at Colorado. Now, this line jumped all over the place. Coach Prime has got this team and this country in a tizzy about these Buffaloes. It was Nebraska -7 at Colorado. And then 3 hours after Colorado upset TCU, Colorado was laying 2.5 points. Now, I haven't seen many threes out there. FanDuel is keeping it at 2.5. Obviously, the big upset against TCU. Nebraska did not look great against Minnesota, but I'm still taking them plus the points here. A rare situation where Colorado is favored. By the way, they have the extra day of rest, and you had Colorado probably partying all week. I know this sounds like Harry logic, but I do think it comes up to bite them. Don't forget, Nebraska plays good defense. I think only about 251 yards for Minnesota last week, so don't look for the coach's kid to throw for 500 against this Nebraska team. I'm taking the points, and I think you are as well.
Yes, Al, I am. I love Nebraska this week. Everybody jumping on the Buffalo's bandwagon. Deion, only one game here, man. One game, Deion Sanders. So let's pump the brakes a little bit on bragging so much. You mentioned Nebraska and Matt Rule choked away that game last week, Sal, to Minnesota, but their defense was solid here. They gave up just 2.2 yards per carry in that game. They allowed just 4.5 yards per reception. Dion's son, Shakur, has a tough day. Not a lot of points, not a lot of yards. Nebraska, 24. Colorado, only 19.
All right, real quick, we're running out of time. Texas, Alabama. Running out of time for the best game of the weekend. Texas, Alabama. Texas getting a hefty 7 at Alabama. Remember, this was a very close game. Last year, Alabama was lucky to win by a field goal, and that was when they were a 20-point favorite. Now they're a 7-point favorite. I like this Alabama team. I think this is one of those rare years you can find value in them. You can find value in Jalen Milroe for Heisman winner at 30-1. But I like, as far as this game goes, I'm going Texas. I'm going Quinn Ewers here. I think they keep it close. You know, Harry, do you sense a blowout? You're going the other way. I think these receivers are just going to be too big, and eventually I see like a backdoor cover kind of thing.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know, Sal, I do not like Steve Sarkisian as a head coach. I just don't. I think he's so overrated. Longhorns are 0-4 in their last 4 regular season games versus the SEC. I know Texas played them tough last year, but that was in Austin. This game is in Tuscaloosa. I watched a lot of that game last week against Texas and Rice. Didn't like what I saw in that offense. They got stopped a lot by Rice. Bama, last 21 home games, 21-0 straight up. And 19 of those, they've won by 7 or more. I'm going to take Bama and lay the points against the Longhorns.
All right. Look for that thin Alabama secondary there. Malachi Moore, Jalen Key, game time decisions. All right. That's going to do it. Wow, Harry. That does it for the main games. I think that's enough, right? Recap all your picks real quick, Harry. No, don't worry. Forget about it. Really appreciate you dressing up and joining us, Harry. You can follow Harry at AAO Harry on X and hear him on our Against All Odds podcast every Wednesday and Thursday. Coming up, we go from one legendary gambler to another. My sit-down interview with Billy Walters, the greatest sports bettor of all time. Don't go anywhere. Hey, if you want more chances to bet against me, check me out. I'm part of the Ringer Wise Guys this Sunday on FanDuel TV. You're not going to want to miss that. All right. Hey, and there are a few people, let me tell you, who have beaten Vegas, and not the Raiders. Plenty of people have beaten them. I'm talking about actual Vegas, but Billy Walters did that, and he's written a book all about his system, a collection of insane stories about beating the odds. Earlier this week, I got to sit down with the legend himself, and here's how that turned out. Enjoy. All right, we're back on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. And, you know, when I was offered this show by FanDuel TV and The Ringer, I said I'd only take it if on the very first episode I could feature the greatest sports bettor of all time. Well, by the grace of the gambling gods, he's here today. And it just so happens he has a book out. It's called Gambler: Secrets from a Life at Risk. It's a must-read filled with amazing tales and advice that he is finally offering up to the rest of us degenerates. Here he is, the great Billy Walters. What's happening, Billy?
Nothing shaking, Sal. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
How do we become partners? I'm just going to get right to it. I mean, I know I read the book, like Floyd Mayweather was your partner for a little while, but he didn't follow the rules. I think you wanted him to bet, just to concentrate on 2 sports books where he had a high limit, and he went nuts. He was not as disciplined. People are going to be surprised to learn. And then you were like, all right, we can't do this anymore. I'll listen to you. I promise I'll do whatever you want. How do we do this? Do I have to have high limits? There has to be something in it for you. I get it. But other than that, how can we make this work?
Actually, Sal, as much as I like to, I don't do partnerships anymore. Like I said, I'm betting football a little bit, but I don't have 1,600 accounts like they used to have, hundreds of people working for me. I'm doing a little different, although like I said, pretty successful, but actually very successful. But anyway, I know you're teasing anyway, but. Back to Floyd.
I'm not teasing. I want to be your partner for 1 week. What does it matter? Right. What's going to happen?
Well, that might be fun. Anyway, but back to Floyd, great guy, and he's an action man. I can tell you that. And you're right. He had a couple spots he was going to go to, but he got lost on his route. He kept going.
Right. Right. Yeah, he went for the knockout, and it wasn't there. Well, that's a shame. I really thought we would work together. When did you actually first realize, like, wow, I have a winning system? In your head, you probably thought it was going to work. But after a year when you won, you're like, wow, this is really something, and no one else can know about this.
Actually, Sal, I knew in the late 70s that I had a winning system. And all I do, Sal, is I make a prediction on a game. And it begins with power rating, okay? And out of that power rating will come my line. That's the line that I make on the game. If there's enough of a differential, I will make a bet. The larger the differential, the larger bet I make. And if there isn't enough of a differential, I won't bet at all. I think everyone pretty much knows 3 is the most valuable number in all of football, especially, Okay, so between 2.5 and 4.5, that's only 2 points. You got 3 and 4. But when you look at the values of 3 and 4, which are in my charts, you're going to see percentage-wise, they're much greater, say, than 7.5, 8.5, and 9.5. All the games that the line is, that the team is a 3-point favorite, 8% of the time, that game's going to fall on 3.
I love it all. Well, how hard is it for you? Because as soon as you become an opinion bettor, you're like everybody else, right? And you're going to lose. So I know you highly value the quarterback rating, which you should. It's the most important position in the game. But how hard is it for you to not fall for all the hoopla? Like Patrick Mahomes must have a gigantic quarterback rating in your system anyway. But there's also people that feed the machine, and the media will portray him as godlike. So is part of you want to add a third of a point or a quarter of a point to a Patrick Mahomes, or are you that focused and you're able to shut it down and just base it on numbers?
When I bet on sports, Sal, it is nothing but business with me. It's just like you and your business. I love it. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. And I've got as much passion for it today as I did, when I began. But I look at it completely differently. I can treat it as a business and still have just as much fun.
Yeah. Wow. So, I often said if I knew I was going to be in this many pools and this many fantasy leagues and gambling on everything, I might not pick a favorite team just to root for in the Cowboy because it becomes too much. When is your best time of year, do you think, when you're most locked into the lines? Is it right now? Is it like right as the season starts? Or is it like week 6 where you're like, oh, all my numbers are really tight and I got them good right here?
Early in the year, if you can identify something the odds makers don't, it creates a lot more value for you. On the other hand, there's a lot more uncertainty too if you don't. So the later in the year, after you watch the teams play, everyone's going to have more information out there. And, everybody wants to focus on computers, okay? And computers are, obviously, that's where it's at. On the other hand, there's a qualitative side of handicapping sports that is extremely important. Without that, I couldn't win. Over the years, I've had some guys that don't even know how to turn a computer on that bring a lot of valuable information that we're able to utilize. If you got morale problems with the team, tell me where you go in a database to find that. I don't know where you find it. I wouldn't get so focused on, if you're not a computer guy, focus on the other. Try to find angles and things that you're not going to find on a computer.
You talk about your first bet at 9 years old, or maybe this is the first big bet or sports bet, $125 on the Yankees over the Dodgers in the 1955 World Series. It was a good bet you taking the Yankees because they had beaten the crap out of them so many previous years. And then, of course, the next year with the perfect game, Don Larson and everything. But anyway, in a way, that's a bad beat. But what is the worst beat of your life, or bet ache, as I call them?
Well, Sal, I've had so many of them, be hard to remember. I recanted one. I lost a halftime bet when Arizona played Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl. That has to be as bad as any I've ever lost. I mean, Kurt Warner threw an interception on the goal line, and I've won a lot of games I shouldn't have won, Sal, and of course I've lost some I shouldn't have lost. And we always remember the ones we lose. We never remember the ones we win. But anyway, that's the way gambling is. I mean,
but you won on the Russell Wilson interception, didn't you? I think you had the Patriots over the Seahawks.
I did, and again, I don't want to underestimate the fact that I won that. But when I was cussing Belichick because Belichick had timeouts, he wouldn't call them.
Me too.
And I'm figuring he's going to call a timeout. And of course, Brady's got plenty of time to go down, kick a field goal, take it in overtime. I personally think Belichick went to sleep. But I think as a result, it forced Pete Carroll's hand, and I think Pete Carroll, because he had time issues, I think that's the reason he tried to pass. I mean, that's the only reason I think of it. It was a $4.2 million turnaround for me. I bet $2 million on New England, and instead of losing 2-2, I won $2 million, and I felt like somebody dropped some money out of the sky to me.
I need to get something out of you in terms of, is there a team that you're leaning towards that numbers wise, it added up in your head that people aren't going head over heels crazy about? Is there some value in some team that you could give? Could you give that out?
Well, if I had it, I could, but I don't know which team that'd be in the colleges. I mean, there's probably, but I mean, I'd be happy to give it out if I could, but
you could. You could do it. You could do it.
Like I said, credibility is everything, and I've kind of stayed away from this. And I prefer not to go that route.
All right. I just thought overall for the season, you don't have to give me a lean on a specific game, but I wonder if there was a.
Well, in the NFL, there's millions of things can happen between now and the end of the season. We know that injuries, there's all types of things, but everybody knows who the top echelon teams are, and I don't know. This could be Buffalo's year. You never know. But we'll see. But,
Buffalo, that's 2 Fs, right? I'm going to write that down. Okay.
You got Kansas City, Frisco. You got all those teams. I mean, you can flip a coin. It's who's going to, the injuries and how they're going to get through things. But yeah.
All right. Don't tell me to flip a coin because I'll do that, and it'll go south for me. Okay. I know it will. You've been through this Phil Mickelson thing, and you're probably sick about talking about it. But there was one thing that jumped out at me that I don't think was covered in the book or the interviews I've seen you do. Essentially, it came down to, had he testified in this insider trading trial, your name would have been cleared, and you likely wouldn't have done jail time. I think that's your take on this.
To answer your question, I went to prison. I didn't hear from him for 5 years. I never heard from him when my daughter died. I came home. I was at a club that we both belonged to, and I was going to play golf with some friends. And I warmed up on the range. I was walking the cart, and he walks up with that TV smile and big old grin. Oh, it's so good to see you, and I'm so glad you're back on the golf course. I said a couple of things to him, and I went to the cart, and I haven't spoken to him since. And Sal, I know we're all supposed to try to find a way to, get things behind you, but I don't intend on speaking to him anymore.
Well, that's okay. You don't need him as a friend. You have me now, and we'll do all the things you guys love doing together. When this book gets turned into a movie, who is the favorite to play Billy Walters? Or would you like to play yourself?
Yeah, that's not my expertise. If that were to ever happen, I'd probably leave that up to people, the movie makers. They know a lot more about that.
All right. Well, I'll suggest, maybe Sam Elliott, I think, has a nice, folksy way about him, or maybe Helen Mirren, even. Who knows? So give everybody a chance. It's Gambler: Secrets from a Life at Risk, available now. It's a great read for sports bettors, and even if you aren't a sports bettor. Billy Walters, thanks so much for being our very first guest on FanDuel TV. I'd love to, if we could be partners. I have nothing to give you. I can give you a FanDuel hat or something. We can figure it out. But
well, Sal, thanks for having me. I'm truly honored to be on your show.
You got it. Thanks, Billy. Take care.
Right, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks to the great Billy Walters for joining us. You know what? I don't care what he says. I will never give up on my lifelong dream to be his gambling partner. Stick around. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show. All right, we're back. I'm told we have less than a minute left. Do I get a timeout? No? All right, we're out of time. Harry ate all the time. I want to thank Harry for coming on. I want to thank the great Billy Walters, my new partner. Hey, check me out with the other Ringer Wise guys, John Jastrzemski, Raheem Palmer, and Joe House. That's this Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And I leave you with this very important message. Remember, you may feel like an underdog, but please know that you're all my favorites. Happy handicapping.